everybody. Good evening. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope things are in order, things are in place, and you guys are just keeping strong because I know as in when the dates of the calendar seem to be striking off, the anxiety is building up, and you guys must also be thinking as to how should we be combating all of these anxieties that tend to be coming in here. So I am here to help you ward off a little bit of these anxieties, a little bit of become a little more complacent, become a little more confident. Probably that's a better word to put forward when it comes to reading. Now see, reading is an activity that does not come with a flick of a wand. So we have to understand that reading is going to be the kind of thing which will take time. Because we are now crunching on time, reading has all the more, gained importance. And knowing how important, how indispensable reading is to any examination for that matter, let alone the CLAT examination, now is when we understand the weight that reading brings along. So today is a stress buster session on to how is it that we can do reading better. How is it that we can simplify all of these complicated thoughts that we have in our head, the devil that we have made of reading. कैसे हम लोग इन सब चीजों से better हो सकते हैं, right? Now I am not going to be telling you anything which you might not have heard of. They are going to be the kind of things जो आप सुनते रहते हो. आपको पता रहता है कि okay, these are the ways in which we need to be doing better. But what I will do is I will summarize this piece of information for you very quickly because, like I said, there is no rocket science in reading. Reading is what you have been doing forever. But now the kind of reading that you're going to do is going to be a little more content oriented. अब जो हम लोग रीडिंग करते हैं उसका एक मोटिव होता है. अब जो हम लोग रीडिंग करते हैं वो एक एडवांस्ड लेवल पे भी होती है. And which is why reading does not only have to be mere reading. Of course, that can also be. I mean, you have to do what suits your fancy. आपको जो अच्छा लगे करो वही. But अब हम लोग को क्या करना है? हमें थोड़ा सा amplify कर देना है. We have to calibrate our reading around content which is really going to help us evolve our perspective so that we can grow in opinion. Because at the end of the day, जब हम लोग reading comprehension करते हैं, तो of course ये चीज important हो जाती है as to how we tend to understand the information, right? So which is why we're going to talk about the basics of reading. Guys, I'm going to be taking all of your questions probably towards the end, right? So give me 15 minutes for me to give you my gyan. Then of course I'm going to be responding to all of you guys. Okay? Now, reading एक बहुत ही famous कहावत है reading को लेके. So reading does to the mind what workout does to the body. So reading is nothing but a workout of the mind. So the more you read, the more your mind flexes, and the more your mind is able to flex, the better you can begin to absorb material. जब हम लोग reading करते हैं, there is a very, there's a very faint corner in our mind which eventually begins to evolve. And that evolution is a very slow process. So वो tortoise speed में चलता है. But again, as and when it is growing, it is not looking backward. So reading is going to be one such activity जो एक बार आपने आ गई ना, या एक बार आप उस पे better हो गए, you will not ever be able to turn back. Of course, you can be out of practice, but concept building जो होगी, that will never falter. That is going to be something that you will always tend to do. अच्छा, सबसे पहले reading होती है 3 टाइप की. So the types of reading that we tend to be having are primarily of 3 types. एक होती है extensive reading, एक होती है intensive reading, एक होती है skimming and scanning. Right? Please don't beat me up for my handwriting. It's just that I have a very beautiful handwriting. Otherwise, I really want to take that appreciation. But on the pen tap, it comes out to be like this. Okay. Now, extensive reading क्या होती है? It does not come from the word extensively read करना. Of course, आप बहुत ज्यादा इसमें read करते हो, content read करते हो, but extensive reading primarily वो type की reading होती है which you like. So mostly the kind of genres जिसमें हम लोग extensive reading करते हैं, those can be novels, those can be reports, those can be fictions, they can be comics, they can be online reading, they can be from Quora, they can be from chat rooms, they can be from the kind of source that you like reading from. एक्सटेंसिव रीडिंग की ब्यूटी क्या होती है, हम लोग कभी भी थकते नहीं है, बिकॉज वी चूज द कंटेंट एंड वी लाइक द कंटेंट. So if it is a recipe of choosing and liking, I think there is, nobody who can falter from that. So extensive reading are always going to be the kind of reading जो हम लोग करते हैं from the sources we prefer. इंटेंसिव रीडिंग आर द काइंड, अच्छा, एक्सटेंसिव रीडिंग में एक और चीज होती है. एक्सटेंसिव रीडिंग करते टाइम यू डोंट हैव टू डाइव इनटू द निटी-ग्रिटी ऑफ द इंफॉर्मेशन. हमें मेटिकुलसली उसको इतना पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं होती है. सिंपली वाई? बिकॉज दिस इज समथिंग दैट यू लाइक. इवन इफ यू आर मिसिंग आउट ऑन इंफॉर्मेशन, द ब्यूटी इज गोइंग टू बी दैट यू आर एबल टू प्लॉट द आइडिया इन योर माइंड. वो इमेजरी जो दिमाग में चलती है, दैट विल कीप यू असिस्टेड विद द इंफॉर्मेशन. नेक्स्ट होती है हमारी इंटेंसिव रीडिंग. इंटेंसिव रीडिंग आर द काइंड ऑफ जॉनर रीडिंग्स विच वी डू नॉट लाइक, या इट इज गोइंग टू बी द काइंड ऑफ वीडियो, सॉरी, द काइंड ऑफ आइडियाज दैट हैव बीन गिवन टू अस इन विच हमें हल्का फुल्का लुक वार्म पसंद है. इट्स गोइंग टू बी वेरी टेपिड लाइकिंग ऑफ अस. बट नाउ दिस इज गोइंग टू बी द काइंड ऑफ रीडिंग जिसमें आपको ध्यान से पढ़ना होता है. सो यू हैव टू पे अटेंशन. The reason why you gotta pay attention for this sort of reading is because जो चीज हमको अच्छी नहीं लगती है, इंफॉर्मेशन उसमें से स्लिप होना बहुत ज्यादा आसान हो जाता है. So that we don't slip on the information, we have to be very, very focused. So we have to magnify on the smallest of the idea. We have to ensure that, whatever is the kind of perception that is being mentioned, वो हमको समझ में आ रहा है. We are understanding the idea from the point of view of the author. ऐसा नहीं कि हम लोग अपने ही मन से समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. So जब इतनी सारी फाइट्स आ जाती है ना रीडिंग में, तो रीडिंग any which ways becomes a very, it becomes a very, very laborious. It becomes a very laborious, sorry. It becomes a very laborious sort of an activity, and that's just something जहां मेहनत हो जाती है ना, वहां somehow इंसान को काम नहीं करना होता. And this is an ugly truth. मतलब ये तो एकदम तय बात है. See, we cannot be working if we have to put it. So we want to do an effort, but again, this is something that's coming from me also. We want to decide how much of an effort we want to put. Intensive reading requires us to do a lot more than we can actually agree to. And that's where the detachment from the text is. And of course, we don't like the category of reading that we're doing, because वो भी वहां पे भी वो एक mismatch है, synchrony नहीं है हमारी. तो हमारा वैसे भी, we're going to just sort of, stay one hand distance from this. Intensive reading generally are done in, while doing your reading comprehensions. It is done while doing letter writing. It is done when a report analysis needs to be done. It is generally done जब कहीं का कोई statistical information आ रहा है. So business correspondence में बहुत intensive reading होती है, because they can't be missing out on information. The third technique is called skimming and scanning. So skimming and scanning basically is the kind of technique in which your eyes read faster than your mind. If you have seen a lot of people do comparing. So comparing में क्या करते हैं, उनके पास जो भी उनका प्लकार्ड होता है उसमें वो एक बार नीचे देखते हैं, फिर सामने ऊपर देखते हैं. They have a direct contact with the audience, and they are able to speak the next two lines until they look down again to see what the information is. Now this is precisely what is skimming and scanning. What they do is they have read that information previously. But now what they tend to do is they tend to just look at the text. वो लोग स्कैन कर लेते हैं इंफॉर्मेशन, स्कैन कर लेते हैं एज इन इंपॉर्टेंट वर्ड्स क्या हैं हमारे. दे विल स्कैन द डेट्स, दे विल स्कैन द इवेंट्स, दे विल स्कैन द नेम्स, दे विल स्कैन एनीथिंग विच इज अ प्रॉपर नाउन, दे विल स्कैन ऑल ऑफ दिस अरेंजमेंट, दे विल सेंड द सीक्वेंस. ये सारी चीजें फटाफट स्कैन कर लेंगे, एंड देन दे नो how that placement of information has to be. So when you're trying to skim and scan, you don't read the text in entirety, but you handpick information. Now for it to be skim and scan, the text has to necessarily be of visible information. It cannot be anything which is going to be an information which is inferred or implied, because at that point of time, your skimming and scanning might actually backlash. It might not really work for you. हम लोग जब रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन करते हैं, वी आर वेरी टेम्प्टेड टुवर्ड्स दिस एक्टिविटी, स्किमिंग एंड स्कैनिंग, बिकॉज वी फील समहाउ इट सेव्स टाइम. But always know, guys, in the fight between time versus accuracy, it is always the accuracy that matters. Just because you're missing on time, you should not go bullet train. You should not go like, go ballistic onto the questions. No, you need to know how to hold to ground. You have to know where to slow down. बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे आप कर तो सब कुछ ले रहे हो 2 घंटे में, बट अगर आपकी एक्यूरेसी ही नहीं है, सो व्हाट इज द होल पॉइंट ऑफ चेजिंग? बिकॉज दिस वुड देन जस्ट बी अ वाइल्ड गूस चेस, घूमते जा रहे कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है, राइट? सो स्किमिंग एंड स्कैनिंग, यस इट इज अ वेरी इफेक्टिव टेक्निक प्रोवाइडेड यू नो कि कौन सा टाइप का टेक्स्ट है. अच्छा, समथिंग दैट आई ऑलवेज एडवाइस ऑल माय स्टूडेंट्स इज, a lot of times when you have a text that has been offered to you, what you don't pay attention to is the kind of source that is mentioned towards the end. Reading the source is a very, very good, it is a very cashable idea, or an or a technique that you can employ to streamline the idea better. So agar if you're not doing that, this I'm just mentioning this in transit. Just ensure that this is something you inculcate as of a practice. Source पढ़ना चालू कर दो. Source पढ़ने से पता है क्या होगा? आपको ये पता है, you'll be able to design the kind of reading. Agar if you know the kind of passage that has been given to you is a fiction passage now. Fiction is something that you love. You can do an extensive reading for it. If it is the kind of idea which is, say for example, a business message, you don't like reading business, it is an intensive reading for you. Or if you think that okay, it's economics, it's business and economics, and you know the kind of idea where there's going to be, where the information or the question is being specific detail, you can simply skim and scan. So the source will also, give you quite a beacon. It's going to provide itself to be quite a beacon for you to know how should you be going about. Now, while reading, what are the ways in which we can do better? Now, in the previous time that we met, मैंने एक छोटा सा mention किया था about a few interrogations that one should always do with the text. They are called why, what, how, when, where. These interrogations are what will keep you glued. जब भी हम लोग रीडिंग करते हैं, रीडिंग बहुत ही ज्यादा ब्लैंक नहीं होनी चाहिए. इट शुड नॉट बी दैट यू जस्ट रीडिंग फॉर द हेक ऑफ रीडिंग. If you want to become an active participant in reading, you have to know how to probe your text. Probe your text कैसे करोगे? You're simply going to ask questions like what, why, how did it happen, when is it happening, where is it happening. For every time you tend to be doing that, you automatically become more interactive with the kind of text that has been given to you. अब रीडिंग में भी हमारे पास दो टाइप की इवैल्यूएटिव एक्टिविटीज होती है. एक जो आपको करना होता है बिफोर रीडिंग, एक जो करना होता है आपको ड्यूरिंग और आफ्टर रीडिंग. नाउ जब हम लोग बिफोर रीडिंग करते हैं, then at that point of time always know your mind needs a little bit of flexing. हमेशा याद रखना, the first reading that you begin for the day will always be slow. So a good idea is to read a source that you like, so that your mind or your brain has automatically accelerated. It has already started to function. So to put it to theory, if for example you're going for your CLAT examination, it is a good idea at about 12:30 to do a half an hour reading. क्यों? वो बोलते हैं ना, मशीनरी में एक बार ऑयलिंग हो जाती है तो फंक्शनिंग क्विक हो जाती है, राइट? इफ यू रीड व्हाट यू लाइक, your brain has automatically adjusted to the fact that okay, now reading is starting, so it's going to shut all the other things and it will be like okay, I have to streamline to reading. Then you can understand the sources better. Now see, this you all can introspect, you all can reflect within yourselves. पहला पैसेज हमेशा सबसे ज्यादा टाइम लेता होगा करने में, एंड पहले पैसेज को पढ़ने में हम लोग रिलेटिवली वी रीड एंड रीड द इंफॉर्मेशन, बट स्टार्टिंग द सेकंड पैसेज योर स्पीड इज जस्ट गोइंग टू गो लाइक zhup, it's just going to go like really fast. So why does it? Because now the brain has adapted to the kind of environment you're putting it in. It's molded to that technique. It's like okay, ठीक है, ये करना है, अब इसको हम लोग कर रहे हैं. So pre-reading is very important. Next, identify the kind of areas you like and the kind of areas you do not like. या जो चीज नहीं समझ में आती है. What you like should only be incentive reading. What you don't like should be your hurdle reading. राइट? सो विच मीन्स जब हम लोग पढ़ते हैं तो अपने कॉन्टेक्स्ट को डिवाइड करके रखो. अगर आपको ये पता है कि यू आर गोइंग टू जस्ट सॉर्ट ऑफ पुश योरसेल्फ टू टू इंसेंटिव्स ऑफ गुड रीडिंग, देन वन genre of or one category of hurdle reading. It's very important that we do that. Why? Because if you just keep reading what you like, you are not getting better. Because वो चीज आई तो ठीक है, but अगर वो नहीं आई तब क्या? You also have to know how to respond to the alienation you get towards a text. And which is why for every time you do a good reading, right, you give yourself the incentive कि देखो अब मैं अपनी favorite कर रहा हूँ, so then I am going to do some sort of hurdle reading to only challenge myself better. Now, how you perform in this will eventually keep getting better. Also, you can decide whatever be the sequence. If you want to start with a bad reading, end on a good mood. You want to start on a good mood, end on a bad mood. You want to put it in between so that your moods remain, your mood tends to remain constant. That is going to be your transaction to, go forward with. But it is very important that we incentivize ourselves, because if there's a greed for something, the mind works better. You chase that thought. If not, you must know that anything which is not going to be always good might be asked in the examination, and you have to ultimately be attempting onto it. So, a classification or a proper distinction between good and bad reading is something. Good and bad in the sense enjoyable and the one that you wouldn't enjoy a lot. Before reading, if you can find out that the kind of text that has been given to you has something that you know of, it's a good idea to pile up information. So say for example, अगर मेरे पास एक passage है and by the very visual of it मैंने ये देख लिया कि वो वर्ल्ड वॉर पे है, राइट? सो अब जब वर्ल्ड वॉर पे मेरे पास पैसेज है तो सबसे पहले मैं क्या करूंगी? आई विल टेक अ मोमेंट टू कंपाइल एवरीथिंग आई नो अबाउट द वर्ल्ड वॉर. So if I'm able to do that, what I do is I have become more incidental to the idea. I have gotten a little closer to the idea. I still might not know what the passage is about, but now the information is going to be something that my brain will be easy. I mean, it's going to slip into that those enemy terrains a lot more easier. So if we are able to capture or gather all of our external information and bring it to fore, it helps us in understanding the kind of reading that we have to be doing. Once you've done this pre-workout of the mind, then is when we start during the workout and post-workout. During the reading, things that you must do. First, markups. अगर आपकी रीडिंग क्लीन है तो वो बहुत गड़बड़ रीडिंग है. Your reading should scribble. You should, make the text dirty. Underline, circle, mark, date दिख रहा है, event दिख रहा है, नाम दिख रहा है, उसको markup करो. Because unless and until you're not doing that, unless and until you're not making a shabby scene out of it, there has to be chaos. Because from chaos comes order. So we have to know that the text must look like a muddled, a script, so that we know that we have read it and we have read it actually in a very disintegrated manner. So if you are not doing that, start doing the markups. Use multiple highlighters or use your pen or different symbols. Line banao, gola banao, tick karo, star banao, whatever, depending on how you want to range the information. Right? Make your own indicators, but a markup is very, very important. If you have the idea of regressive reading, that is, आपके आगे पढ़ते जा रहे हैं, पीछे पीछे भूलते जा रहे हैं. At that point of time, you need to do para summary. पैरा समरी का मतलब होता है हर पैराग्राफ को हम लोग क्या करेंगे? माइंड मैप कर देंगे. हम लोग जैसे ही पैराग्राफ पढ़ेंगे, वी आर सिंपली गोइंग टू टेक द इंफॉर्मेशन एंड इन वन लाइन और टू, अब वो तुम हिंदी में लिखो, इंग्लिश में लिखो, इंग्लिश में लिखो, किसी भी भाषा में लिखो, you in your own language will write a small snippet of what is it that you have understood from the idea mentioned above. Ultimately, जब आप passage खत्म कर लोगे, the addition of the information that you have written from all the paragraphs is the summary, is what the passage happens to be speaking about. So para summary is again a very, very important aspect while doing your reading. Next, whenever you are trying to read, now something that we discussed previously, probe. राइट अगर एकदम से कोई नया नाम आया सो जस्ट प्रोब से ये नया कौन है राइट एंड देन ऑन टॉप ऑफ इट जस्ट राइट ऑथर की वाइफ या अभी तक तो वो अभी तक तो वो डार्क अभी वो वेयर इज ही सो ही वाज इन अ डार्क प्लेस ही वाज इन अ डार्क प्लेस इन अ लोनली जंगल ही वाज फीलिंग वेरी डेजोल्यूट तो क्या आई नो ही इज फीलिंग अलोन एंड ही इज इन अ डार्क प्लेस then again why is he saying that so now if there is a comment that comes you simply write over there why and then you write the answer okay he's probably saying all of these things because he's alone and he's just uska wo empty mind is a devil's workshop chal raha hai he has very nasty thoughts in his head So the more you probe, the better you begin to understand what the text is all about. After you do all of this, while doing the kind of reading that we tend to be doing, it is very, very important that if it is a very clean text, that is आपको दिख रहा है कि बड़ा narrative है या बड़ा it's the kind of idea which is not very complicated, that means you can indulge in skim scan. राइट. स्किम स्कैन इज सिंपली गोइंग टू बी जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन है उसके बेसिस पे हमने क्या किया, इंफॉर्मेशन को रेसिडुअल में निकाल लिया. दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है. इवेंट दिखा, मार्क कर लो. नाम दिखा, मार्क कर लो. अब छोटी छोटी चीजें, ग्रामर जैसे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स पेइंग अटेंशन, स्मॉल अटेंशन टू टेंसेस, proper nouns, these can actually be make or break. Knowing the punctuations, डबल इन्वर्टेड का क्या मतलब है, सिंगल इन्वर्टेड का क्या मतलब है, ये सब चीजें ऑथर बोलेगा नहीं. These are literally devices one tends to use. So you have to know. So somebody in the starting happened to ask me, is grammar important? Yes. Grammar will tell you how should you contemplate this information. Very, very important. So during the text, we do things like this. Now, after the reading of it, what are you to do? After reading, first thing, summarize the main idea. That is, अपने words में सोचो passage ने क्या बोला है. A good idea is to get into peer reading. Peer reading बोलता है अकेले मत पढ़ो, कोई टेक्स्ट ले लो, दो लोग सेम टेक्स्ट को पढ़ो. बहुत इफेक्टिव एक्टिविटी होती है. अगर आपको लगता है न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ने में मजा नहीं आ रहा है, न्यूज़पेपर समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, टेक टू आई मीन take a partner, both of you read and then explain it to each other. What have you picked up? क्या समझ में आया? उसको पूछो कि यार तुम्हें क्यों लगता है ये बात क्यों की गई है. The more you converse, the better your understanding is going to be. So peer reading is also a very, very good thing that you can do. Make a title for your passage. Now this is also an innovative technique to stay engaged with the text. See, the idea is that we stay peripheral to what we have done. जितना ज्यादा हम लोग उसमें इन्वॉल्व रहेंगे उतना ज्यादा हमारा रीडिंग रहेगा. Our reading is going to stay live. Our reading is going to stay very efficient and effective at that. So make a title for it. Again, if you want to strengthen your critical reasoning, सेम न्यूज़पेपर के एडिटोरियल से हम लोग छोटी छोटी चीजें कर सकते हैं. जैसे कि मेन आइडिया क्या है, टाइटल क्या है, व्हाट डू यू थिंक कंक्लूजन था, अच्छा ऑथर का मेन आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या था इस पूरे पैसेज में. अब इसको कर दो तुम लोग स्ट्रेंथन और उसको कर दो तुम लोग वीकन. सो अगर ऑथर ने बोला है कि G20 समिट इज अ गुड थिंग सपोज फॉर इंडिया, देन स्ट्रेंथन इट इज गुड, वीकन इट इज बैड, कि अब हमें बताना है कैसे G20 बैड है. सो व्हाट डू यू डू, यू सिंपली इन योर माइंड assemble the information and you do that little prototype of activity that is required. So इतना सारा जब हम लोग वर्कआउट कर लेते हैं टेक्स्ट के साथ, वर्कआउट एज इन द माइंड हैज एक्चुअली वर्कड विद इट, then the text becomes very friendly, very compatible, very, very easy to understand. So it is extremely, extremely important that we begin to understand what sort of a reading to be you have to involve into, right? Extensive, intensive, skim or scan. One, ये जैसे ही हो गया. सेकंड, देन यू कम ऑन टू व्हाट इज द जॉनर लाइक, कैटेगरी आपके पसंद की है कि आपके पसंद की नहीं है. है तो इंसेंटिवाइज योरसेल्फ, मेक योर बॉडी फील हैप्पी फॉर द रीडिंग, राइट. नहीं है तो डोंट बी morose about it, don't be like, because see, the moment you decide on how you want to react with the text, your brain will instantly, you know, it's going to catch on that impulse. तो अगर आपने पहले ही अपने दिमाग को ये बता दिया कि ओ माय गॉड दिस इज, ओ वो गॉड व्हाट इज दिस, ये तो मुझे होगा ही नहीं, योर ब्रेन विल नॉट डू इट. डोंट अरेस्ट योर माइंड टू थॉट्स एंड इमोशंस व्हिच यू नो योर बॉडी विल नॉट बी एबल टू कॉम्बैट, क्योंकि उसके बाद आप कितना भी पढ़ते रहो नहीं होगा, राइट. अच्छा, एक और तरीका होता है. नाउ व्हेन यू टेंड टू बी डूइंग द इंफॉर्मेशन दैट हैज बीन मेंशन्ड इन द पैसेज, please make sure that you are reading, definitely reading the first few lines of the passage. So somebody happened to ask me, ma'am, जैसे जैसे हम लोग पढ़ते जाते हैं हम you tend to forget the idea towards the end. That is simply because, my dear, you've not been able to streamline the idea. आप समझे ही नहीं कभी पैसेज ने क्या बोला. So at that point of time, what are you to do? You are to reread the first 5 lines of the passage. They are the deal breaker. पहले की 5 लाइन्स अगर आप बढ़िया से पढ़ लोगे, अब उसको तुम पढ़ लो 2 बार 3 बार इफ नीड बी, बट The moment you read those, after that, any thought that is going to go further down will settle with you very very well. But अगर ऊपर का नहीं समझ में आया तो नीचे का कुछ भी नहीं समझ आएगा, या आया भी तो it will not make any sense, because you will always feel that feeling of left out. नहीं हो रहा है, नहीं आ रहा है मूवी। जब कोई मूवी समझ में नहीं आती तो बीच से थोड़ी देखते हैं, उस सीन को फिर से रिवाइंड करते हैं ना। तो रिग्रेशन इज नॉट अ बैड टेक्निक। आप फिर से पढ़ रहे हो किसी चीज को, ये बुरी बात नहीं है, पढ़ो, पढ़ना पड़ता है, but when you read it the second time you have to know that you're able to literally be solid with that information. फिर उस टाइम ये नहीं होना है मुझे कि आई एम probably not reading, not understanding, or any of those things. So your second read should be more thorough than the first one, but it is really not bad to be reading. Okay, next, just ensure that whenever there is going to be any sort of reading, once you've identified the text and all of that, the next sort of reading that we are going to be doing is going to be in terms of previewing the material, right? Obviously, आप वो देखोगे so that you stay interested. Text देखो, graphic देखो, imagery बनाओ, right? Ask yourself, what have you learned from all of this? This is also very important. देन प्रायर नॉलेज ऑफ द सब्जेक्ट जो हम लोगों ने किया था, प्रोब करो, डू यू नो अबाउट दिस सब्जेक्ट, क्या ये कंटेंट फेमिलियर है, क्या आप रिकग्नाइज कर सकते हो वर्ड्स, वोकैब, मीनिंग, थोड़े प्रिडिक्शंस बनाओ कि अच्छा ये टेक्स्ट ऐसे बात कर रहा है तो क्या, व्हाट आर यू गोइंग टू गैदर फ्रॉम इट, हाउ इज इट गोइंग टू बी अ वैल्यू एडिशन. Once you've done all of those things, then move on to doing some sort of reading, that is visualize your content. Whenever you read in your mind, like I said, एक imagery बनती रहनी चाहिए. Very, very important. You have to make connections with the text. Point out characters, ideas, topics, how you are connecting with them. Probe who, what, when, where, how. Stop to monitor comprehension बोला जाता है. Stop your reading and summarize what you've learned. जरूरी नहीं कि पूरा खत्म करने के बाद ही पैराग्राफ मैपिंग करो, माइंड मैपिंग करो, however the ideas be, right? फिक्स अप स्ट्रेटजीज हम लोगों ने बात कर लिया था, अंडरलाइन करो, नोट्स बनाओ, डिक्शनरी यूज करो, फोर्थ एंड बैक, go into it. After all of that, summarize the main idea of the passage, make a title for yourself if the need is going to be of that. Then come up with questions. We have discussed this. Compare करो कि अच्छा एक बार पहले भी जब तुमने ऐसा पढ़ा था उस टाइम तुम्हारा फीलिंग कैसा था, उस टाइम तुम्हारा how did you respond, how did you reciprocate to that text, and then see is it the same feeling this time also. क्या फीलिंग बेटर हुई, क्या थोड़ा कंफर्टेबल हुए, कि हॉस्टिलिटी अभी तक है, राइट? रिफ्लेक्ट अपॉन योर रीडिंग, दैट इज चैलेंजिंग. एलओडी डिसाइड करो, डिफिकल्ट था, इजी था, चैलेंजिंग था, टफ था, what was it? Choose a word for yourself and then go about with it. And a culmination of all of these activities will automatically bring the best in you. All right, I think let us very quickly towards the end take some questions, and then we can simply call it a day. Now, ma'am, my RC marks are not improving. Raman, how much are you practicing matters. While you're doing all of these types of practice, you have to be ensuring that the practice needs to be of value, right? So if you are doing 5 RCs and it is not helping you, then up your game. And also do analysis. अगर आप analysis नहीं करोगे तो आपको कभी पता ही नहीं चलेगा ना कौन से question सही है, कौन से questions गलत है. And my dears, a very very important thing that you have to know is learn to leave. You have to, doing all questions is not necessary. If this is the first time somebody said that to you, please let it be the last also. You have to learn to leave, because these examinations come with a negative marking, and that is as ominous as any other thing for that matter. Okay, how to solve questions faster? Nihar, for this I'd suggest आप individually practice करो question sets को. जैसे अगर summary कर रहे हो तो बैठ के आराम से 25-30 summary के questions लगा लो. With that what will happen is natural flair आ जाएगा. So question type को passage basis पे ना करके individual type पे attend करो. That will increase your efficiency to be doing. Ma'am, sometimes I read the passages 2 times and still get the answers wrong. Akshay, do mind mapping. Which means आपने दोनों टाइम पढ़ने के बाद क्या हुआ है, आपने इंफॉर्मेशन को रिड्यूस नहीं किया है जिस तरीके से होना है. अच्छा, ऑप्शंस को भी इवैल्यूएट करने का, वेरी सून आई एम गोइंग टू बी डूइंग लाइव ऑन दैट, हाउ टू इवैल्यूएट ऑप्शंस आल्सो, क्लोज ऑप्शंस जो होते हैं. सो मे बी यू हैव अंडरस्टूड द पैसेज राइट, बट आप ऑप्शंस इवैल्यूएट करने में एक बहुत ही बॉर्डर लाइन मिस्टेक कर रहे हो. सो इवैल्यूएशन अगेन इज वेरी नेसेसरी. हाउ मैम आई फॉरगेट एट द एंड में फॉरगेट करने के लिए लाइक आई सेड आप उसको छोटी छोटी एक्टिविटी में ब्रेक कर लो. बड़े टास्क को हमेशा छोटे छोटे मत, ये तो मैनेजमेंट टेक्निक होती है. इफ यू आर नॉट एबल टू डू द एंटायर टास्क, break it into smaller halves and then see how you can get better with it. Ma'am, I take about 8 to 9 minutes to fully attend the passage with good accuracy. Because of this, I can't attempt. Yes. Suraj, what you need to do is start with your stopwatch. Right? Now, know that 8 to 9 questions अगर आप कर रहे हैं, 8 to 9 minutes अगर आपको लग रहा है, आइडल टाइम 5.5 से 6 मिनट है पर पैसेज का. इससे ज्यादा आप नहीं दे सकते. सो नाउ दैट यू आर टेकिंग 8 minutes, ट्राई टू रिड्यूस योरसेल्फ 10 seconds ईच. बड़े रिलेटेबल एंड डुएबल टारगेट्स रखेंगे हम लोग. 10 10 सेकेंड करके कम करो और फिर देखो आर यू एबल टू कम टू दैट. अल्टीमेटली यू हैव टू कम टू 6 मैक्स. तो 6 के नीचे ही चाहिए हमको. 6 भी, 6 is also a stretch at that. Ma'am, will para summary extend time for solving? No, it will help you. It will not extend your time. It is going to help you do a lot better. आप पैराग्राफ समरीज करो, आपको माइंड मैपिंग आएगी, आपके मेन आइडियाज की क्लैरिटी होगी. बिकॉज पैराग्राफ क्या होता है? छोटा वर्जन ऑफ अ लेंथी पैसेज. सो छोटा समझ में आ गया तो बड़ा भी आ जाएगा. मैम, कैन आई दीज अप? यस, ऑफ कोर्स दीज टिप्स कम इन हैंडी फॉर एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ रीडिंग. It is not limited to only reading and English for that matter. All right. I hope, guys, this was enough information for you to go back. Go take some time. उसके बाद बैठ के ये सारी इंफॉर्मेशन को एक बार फिर से फिल्टर करना. डिस्टिल द इंफॉर्मेशन टू सी विच वन सर्व्स फॉर यू. टू ईच हिज ओन. सब पे सब टेक्निक्स नहीं काम करती है. आप देखो व्हाट वर्क्स द बेस्ट फॉर यू एंड क्यूरेट अ टेक्निक अराउंड इट. So what I have given are universal ways of application. But is it going to work for you will depend on the kind of personality you have when it comes to reading. So first introspect, then reflect these strategies, and you can, there's no stopping then. You're going to be the best when it comes to reading. Okay, one last question, ma'am. मैं passage understand नहीं कर पाती हूँ मैं. Tanisha, like I said, आप paragraph summaries करो. It's very important. The smaller you go with the paragraphs, the better it is going to be. Okay? All right then. I'm going to see you guys next time with another strategy on evaluating the options that we have and to not, get into the trap of very similar or very confusing options. But that's going to be today. It's going to be it from my side, and I'm going to see you guys next time. Thank you so much for viewing, everyone.